Okay. Hi. It's been 2 months since I did this. One Piece, that's a manga I read. Um, Before I get into actually doing the video itself, I want to apologize because, you know, it wasn't supposed to be a 2 month break. I know Oda went on break for like a month, and that was when I recorded the last video. And I said to some effect that if I remember correctly, I recorded the last video, another chapter dropped, and then the notification that Oda would be taking a month break came out. So I decided to leave that chapter for whenever I finished, like whenever I thought there were enough chapters piled up to do another mass reading session. And then I just never did. Work has been hectic. I went from part-time to full-time, so that's that's something. That's like 40 hours of my week gone. And I've been playing Fortnite and Overwatch a little bit too much. And I've started a binge of Supernatural. And I'm working on D&D campaigns, even though I don't know how to make a campaign. Yeah. So my life is hectic, but I finally decided there was time for One Piece. And yeah, I'm not gonna make any excuses. It's been the same thing for a year now. Work is just work. Remember when these things used to be a weekly thing? I would record a chapter review the week that chapter came out in public. Oh, that was weird. But yeah, new chapter came out, I want to say Friday. I'm recording this on Sunday. So I believe a new chapter came out 2 days ago. But we are going to be going through, I believe it's chapter 1085 to 1090. We're going to be using the same logic that we used last time, where I'm going to turn off my mic, read the chapter, and come back, give a very, very watered down view of the chapter, what I liked about it, what I had an issue with, the things that sets up, that kind of thing. It's just the way I think I can do this the best. And yeah, I already read the first chapter, so 1085. So the chapter title is kind of the biggest thing: the death of Nefertari Cobra. And I mean, that is what happens in this chapter. Emu announces himself, like he's present. All the elders draw their weapons. Cobra tells them that he knows about Lily being a member of the D clan, and then he launches like an arrow attack. The way I'm thinking about it is it's that one guy from My Hero, one of Overhaul's people, but without the time slowing thing. So he attacks Cobra with an arrow that comes out of his like hair. But Sabo has been listening in this entire time, comes in with Fire Fist's smothered mate, tries to get the elders taken care of, and realizes that, yeah, it's not going to be so easy, because they've all transformed into big, ugly monsters. And Cobra recognizes Sabo as, one, Luffy's brother, and two, a member of the Revolutionaries. And Sabo just straight up tells him, we're here worried about a little bit bigger fish than you. And he tells Sabo to tell Vivi and Luffy that they share the moniker of D, and that he finally knows the path Alabasta must follow. And Sabo gets a little flashback to Ace and Luffy, love to see it, of how they had the D. So the way I think this is going to go is Sabo, obviously, he has a connection to the will of D, but it's not direct. He does not have the will of D, but his brothers do. And since we know that Sabo is the inherited will of Ace, like everything Sabo is doing now, minus all the revolutionary stuff, it is the will of what Ace would want to do. He's inherited that with Ace's fruit, that whole thing. So he's taking this as, my brother, who can no longer do it himself, was cursed with this. So I want to find out what it is. That's why I'm viewing it. That's why I think Sabo is taking the will of D so, like, not personally, but he's actually investing himself into it. And Sabo and Cobra get hit with another arrow from one of the monsters. Sabo gets, like, that blood spitting out of his mouth, wide eyes effect, drops Cobra, and Cobra stands up and starts saying, the poneglyphs must be protected. Fly the flag that heralds the world's eventual dawn. Nefertari D. Lily. And then he tells Sabo that he's counting on him, and then we cut away. Or not away. But Wapol is looking through a little hole in the wall that all the elders notice. And Waffle starts running away, but then we find out that Vivi has been taken, I want to say hostage, because the way that Jabra and Khalifa phrase it, you can also see Bluno and one of the other CP members in the back. The way Jabra phrases it is that gotta play your cards closer to the vest if you want a shot at being free, you know? And then Khalifa adds in, once your disappearance is made known, you'll probably live the rest of your life as a pet. And Vivi just asks about Shirahoshi, making sure she's okay. And Jabra lets her know, like, yeah, the punks who ended up assaulting a celestial dragon that was trying to kidnap Shirahoshi boldly proclaimed their victory, giving their names and everything. The guests in the courtyard were stunned because, mind you, they announced themselves as members of the Straw Hat Fleet. And Fujitora's action helped the Revolutionary Army escape and free the slaves. And obviously Ryokyogi was pissed off, so they went at it. And this reverie has just been really eventful. And Walpole smashes through the wall, takes Lily or Vivi. I can't really tell if it's like she jumps into it or Walpole just kind of grabs her and goes. But Walpole and Vivi are together. That's how they partner up. And yeah, overall, good chapter. It's sad to see what actually happened to Cobra because I don't know what I expected. We knew that he died a bloody death. Like, that shot of Sabo standing over his body has blood coming out of him. So obviously it wasn't just going to be like he coughed himself to death. It was very obviously going to have some violence to it, but like my man was like stabbed twice, faced down the celestial dragons and Emu. And it's just wild. Like to see the Sabo future character progression laid out, because I think that flashback to Ace and Luffy was just more than just a flashback. It seemed like it was actually carrying a little bit of weight there. And if so, I can't wait to see it, because I like Sabo, but I don't think he's gotten enough characterization in his tenure of being here, like in the series. So, really looking forward to seeing what happens now. And I should note this. Sorry. My microphone, this is unrelated. My pop filter on my microphone has like fibers coming out of it, so if I get too close to my mic, it like tickles my nose, and it's kind of annoying. But this is one of the first times that we are getting like actual lore. This is the only time that we're getting actual lore on the Will of D. And depending on what we get, that could be determinant for so far into the future that I don't even know what. Like, I've had the theory that the D stands for devil or demon or something like that. So the gods of this world, the celestial dragons and all of them, view themselves as gods. So their natural enemy, they would be cursed as demons. So the Will of D would be the will of a demon. And yeah, I just think I think I've said that before. I'm probably repeating myself, but that's what I think the Will of D is. It is a lineage of people who stood against the celestial dragons and didn't let them reign forever, or wanted to stop their reign. And now, I'm gonna pause the recording, go read 1086, and I'll be back. Okay, holy shit. 1086. Titled as The Five Elder Planets. Sorry. The curtains close on the reverie. Sorry, this chapter has a lot of fucking shit. I liked it, but let's actually get into the chapter. The reverie closes down, and Cobra's murder comes to light after the reverie, and Vivi is missing. So both Pell and I'm forgetting his name, the guy who we thought died in an explosion, that guy, it showed up with just a band-aid. The Alabastian guards are looking for Vivi and the king, and there are several stowaways from the reverie that are escaping on royal vessels. Walpole and Vivi are escaping on the Aegis Kingdom, Aegis Kingdom ship, and they page Morgans and tell him that they're on that one. Morgans is going to fly the world news blimp to Aegis pretending to get a scoop and then pick him up. Walpole does not tell Vivi what he saw, nor does he let her get in contact with her dad. And we see that while CP0 is hunting for Vivi, they are also hunting for Sabo. And they have guns drawn while hunting for Sabo, just in case, they find him. Bonnie is stowing away on the Taijin Kingdom ship in the hatch section. That doesn't really matter. And Sabo is stowed away on the Lelucia Kingdom's ship, still critically injured from trying to protect Cobra. And it didn't take long for the two key stories to spread across the globe. The murder of King Cobra of Alabasta and the disappearance of his daughter, Princess Vivi. The Holy Land of Marijois. So this is where we get into, holy shit. This is where we get into actual, big shit. Part of the big shit. Actually, I'm going to skip the Marijois stuff for now. I'm going to win Sabo explains what happened. The second that they docked at Lelucia, the people arrested King Seki and Princess Komani. They were waiting to ambush the royals. Since I was a stowaway, they welcomed me with open arms. That's when I saw the papers, and I found out that they pinned King Cobra's murder on me. Unsurprisingly, the people there considered me a hero. I wanted to tell them the truth, but when I saw how the lie fanned the flames of rebellion within them, the words died in my mouth. Betty and the others had already inspired a lot of them, and I ended up bringing many of those hopeful recruits back with me. I couldn't make a direct contact without an encryption snail, so I rerouted my call through the island while we were setting sail. I knew the government would intercept the signal, but doing it like that was sure to fool them into thinking I was still in Lelucia. However, I was just within range, having already set out to sea with our new enlistees. And then we find out, Lelucia Kingdom did get blown up, and it was not like everyone from the kingdom was on that ship. There were still a lot of people, and they all died. That kingdom got, boom, blown up. And the reason why it got blown up was because of an enormous black shadow floating above Lelucia Kingdom. That then, if you go back to what we were finding out about Marijois, we see that Emu has instructed the 5 elders to use a weapon called the Mother Flame. And the 5 elders are trying to determine what a target should be. And Emu says Lelucia Kingdom because of its close proximity. That's obviously a lie. And then we find out all of these elders have names, obviously. But they are okay. So we have each one of them has a motherfucking warrior god title, right? So we have defense science warrior god, environmental warrior god, justice warrior god, financial warrior god, and agriculture warrior god. And Emu also gives a secondary instruction to retrieve Vivi. So that's what happens. Lelucia Kingdom gets blown up, as we have already gone over with the Sabo thing. And then we find out that around the same time that all this is going down, 2 kingdoms are rebelling. Lelucia and Aegis. Aegis is the kingdom that Vivi was on. Lelucia is the one, obviously, that Sabo was on, and that whole thing happened with. But they were dispatching seraphims during this entire point to other rebelling kingdoms. And then we're going to go back to what we learned from Sabo and Ivankov. Because guess what? From the 20 founders way back when, one of them was named Saint Emu of House Nerona. And then Ivankov then goes on to, since we know that an ability granting eternal youth is said to exist, that means someone has to have used it before. Which means there's a person out there that doesn't need to worry about death. And Ivankov then points the fingers at that if something was actually floating above Lelucia, it had to be a weapon. And the only person capable of designing a weapon to destroy a kingdom like that, it's Vegapunk. Which then obviously Dragon takes offense to, saying that he would never intentionally design a weapon to kill. And Ivankov then says, if it wasn't Vegapunk, it could have been an ancient weapon, since Robin said that those do exist. But then Dragon brings up the fact, why wait this long? Why use Buster Calls if you have an ancient weapon in your midst? Like, Ohara could have been done like that with no witnesses. Robin would be dead if they just used an ancient weapon to nuke the fucking kingdom. That would have been smart if they had one. Although you could have always say that Buster Calls are supposed to be this, like, 100% unavoidable, you are going to die. But, like, obviously, after Ohara, you have to think there have to be certain, like, exceptions to be made. And then that brings up the question, why not blow up Law's kingdom? Like, obviously, they weren't exactly a threat for reasons. It was because of the quote-unquote illness. But still, like, just blow them all up. It kind of brings the question of, like, the second you have a fight going on a certain island, damn the consequences. Like, right now, Egghead, just blow it up with the ancient weapon, bro. Just do it. Like, sure, you're gonna lose a lot of people on your side, but you deal with the Straw Hat crew. And we're going back to Marriage Law, where a celestial dragon has been sentenced to death, although this will never be reported from the outside world. The one that was executed was Saint Don Quixote Menosgard, the one who chose to defend the fisherman, our boy. And the one who killed him is Saint Fingerland Garland, who currently serves as the supreme commander of the God Knights. So now we're getting into something that I have a little bit of a little history with, a little bit. I had a theory, I still think that it holds some water, that Shanks was Rox Dizabek's son. Just like the timeline added up, whatever. And the number one thing to detract from this was, mind you, at this point, still to this day, I have not seen Film Red. I want to, but I just don't have, like, I just never have the free time. I might do it after this, though. But the Film Red apparently implies that Shanks is a member of the Fingerland family. So that name lives in infamy with me now because it killed a theory of mine. But this chapter was much more actual reveal-driven. We found out where everyone was going, like timeline-wise, how things added up. And, you know, we get the names of the dragon or of the celestial gods. We actually get some decent teases of what the fuck blew up Lucia Kingdom. Because, like Dragon says, Vegapunk would never design something with the main intent to be to kill. That's usually like a side effect. But I think the biggest tease is the existence of the God Knights. So, can't wait to read the next few chapters, see where that goes. So, yeah, I'm going to go read 1087, and I will be back. Okay, another non-Egghead chapter, and I actually like this chapter. I mean, I like the other two as well. But this one's a little bit more to the point, simple. There's not 9 million things going on. We cut to Garp and Kobe on Hachinoso, and they're still going through with the rescue mission, and all the other Marines have evacuated, save for Garp, Kobe, Helmeppo, and one of the new guys, the guy with the big hat. I'm forgetting his name. But they are all still on the island. Gruss. They're still all on the island, and the fucking Pizarro. His name is Pizarro. He has taken over the island with his fruit, and one of the, I think he's a commander, tries to use his fruit, but Garp just lifts up 2 random pirates and just uses them as a human shield. And one of the pirates says he's totally outnumbered and he isn't even punching. What a terrifying geezer. And then that's when we find out that all the other Marines and the slaves are on the ship, and that they can pull it whenever they're ready. And Garp tells the other 3 to get going, and Hachinoso is just a hive of pirates, hence its name. But you know, things can't go that well. Akiji shows back up, and he says that he can't just let Garp leave, and Garp tells the other 3 to run straight for the coast and that they'll be fine. And tells them to don't die on him, and they all go, but Kobe thinks he hears somebody begging, or like, he hears somebody asking for help, and Kobe being Kobe, he turns around to help, but it is a pirate. Instead, Shiryu stabs Garp in the chest, and Garp just fucking caves him into the ground. And everyone else thinks that just because he's stabbed, Garp is going to go down real easy. And then we find out Garp has a 3-crown bounty from Cross Guild. And Akiji just straight up says, you wouldn't stand a chance if he was bound by his arms and legs. That's where you get a flashback. And I didn't go over the name of this chapter. The name of this chapter is Battleship Bags, which is Garp punched. Ever since Garp's youth, he punched battleships like they were punching bags for training. And when he took Akiji under his belt, the rule was no hockey and no devil fruit powers. And we get a little collage of all their training, how they've gotten stronger, and how Garp, for better or for worse, has has confided in Akiji, telling him that my son became a revolutionary, my grandson says he's gonna be a pirate. And then they clash, but it's not like a Conquerors hockey punch clash. They both just land direct punches to each other's faces, and they both go flying back. And that is when Pizarro takes over the full island, and he goes to crush the ship full of Marines and hostage have them and saved. And Garp, still conscious, tells Kobe, "Don't lose your head. Justice will prevail." This is just a straight-up combat chapter, and I really like it. But there's not a whole lot I can go through based off of combat chapters, as we've figured out, unless it's really interesting combat. It is interesting, though, to see that we are still getting characterization for Garp. Like, he has gotten his characterization since Marineford. Ever since, hell, the first time we meet him, we get to know who he is. But the fact that we're still getting more and more is really interesting. But that's kind of it for this chapter. It's good, don't get me wrong. I like to see us back on Hachinoso, wrapping that plotline up. Because we had, like, 5 islands active at once. We had Elbath with Kid and Shanks. We had Blackbeard and Law. We had Hachinoso. We had Egghead. And we had what happened on Marriage Wall. Marriage Wall is now completely wrapped up. Law versus Blackbeard, for better or for worse, is wrapped up. Kid versus Shanks is wrapped up. Now the only 2 we have left is Hachinoso and Egghead. So whenever those 2 get settled out, hell, whenever one of them gets wrapped, then it'll just we'll have 1 more to go. And that's going to be nice, actually, because like I said, we had to divide our attention through how many different fucking focus points. As I load up the next chapter before I read it, I forgot to make a note. The live action, actually, I'll talk about the live action at the end. Bar that. But yeah. 1088. Let's go. That was a chapter. 1088. What can I say about this chapter? It was really good. And I don't want the statement of it's really good to just be it. There is more I want to add to that. Chapter 1088, the final lesson. We start off the chapter for the first time. This chapter is actually one of the first times that we are seeing Kobe's training as a Marine. And we start off the chapter from a lecture from Garp, which is if you have a baby and an old man and you on a deserted island with a bunch of beasts. The ship you have can only carry 2 out. Who do you go with? Kobe gives what he views as the right answer. You send the old man and the baby out and you fend for yourself on the island. But Garp's view is much different. Garp says to abandon the old man so that the youth can live on. That's going to come back at the end of the chapter, I swear to God. But then we get a semi-flashback to when Kobe was taken prisoner. And he wants to make a bargain for himself versus all 800 of the Marines on the battleship that Blackbeard captured. Obviously, that's not what happens. Blackbeard takes all 801 of them and puts them on Hachinoso. And we cut back to Hachinoso actively, and Pizarro is still trying to grab the ship with his big, meaty island hand, and Garp tells them exactly what to do, saying, you guys got this. He'll give them the opening. Kobe is going to go for the hand and smash it to bits. Gruss is going to protect the ship from any falling debris. And Helmeppo is going to make sure that nobody gets in their way. And he tells them, never second guess yourself in the heat of the moment. Now go. And the other pirates view Kobe, Gruss, and Helmeppo as just fodder. They can't do anything. So they're trying to kill him, but Helmeppo is able to deflect a cannon shot to save Gruss and Kobe, who both have to get to the end of the hand. So he's taking care of the people who are trying to pursue those two. Garp gets up and says that the wound on his chest is nothing but a scratch. And he fucking clobbers Kuzan. Just straight smashes him into the ground. Showing, like, yeah, he might have a wound on his, like, massive wound in his chest. Nah, he does not give a single fuck. And Garp flies right up to the face of Hachinoso, the big skull, and hits it with a galaxy divide, which fucks him up. Pizarro is wounded. And Gruss asks, now that Garp has made his move, what do we do? And Kobe says, live up to his expectations. So Kobe jumps off, and we get another flashback. Mind you, this entire time, the Marines on the ship are talking about abandoning the boat, because obviously they can't do anything about the hand. But we get a flashback between Helmeppo and Garp, where we find out that after Kobe and Garp would train, Kobe would go back out and work out even more. And he punches one of the battleships until his fists peel and bleed. And then we get to see that, yeah, Kobe's probably stronger than a lot of people thought, because he blows his hand to bits with one punch. And I'm talking like, I don't want to say this is like a Saitama level feat here, but this is a massive hand, and he is blowing it all to chunks. And Kobe's logic is that if he can't break the fist, they'll all die, and that blood would be on his hands. And mind you, all the damage that's happening to the island is also happening to Pizarro. So his face is broken from the punch from Garp, and his arm is just, it looks cut down the middle, but it's just more of a break. And Kobe, Gruss, and Helmeppo all land on board. Gruss is able to stop all the debris falling from with his fruit. And that's when we get the lesson of this chapter. Garp tells all the troops to withdraw from Hachinoso that he'll figure something out. And in situations like these, the safety of you kids is always the top priority. You finally get it, right? Our success here will prove to be a serious blow to pirates everywhere. So keep moving forward and never forget, you are all the future of the Marines. And we get a panel of Garp on the ground with a massive spike coming out of his chest, and he is on the ground laughing while covered in ice. And Aokiji is standing there very somber, also covered in ice. And then we get the dialogue, or the narration. In the following day's paper, the legendary hero Vice Admiral Garp would be declared missing in action on Pirate Island after the successful rescue of the young hero Captain Kobe. However, another story would also gain the world's attention. The Egghead incident, where Emperor Straw Hat Luffy would face a siege on the island of the future. And that's the end of the chapter. And holy shit. How do I explain how this chapter... One, I think the big thing coming out of this chapter is the question of if Garp is dead or not. And you can make the case that he's still alive. I, however, and this is going to sound very anti-Tristan, I think Garp is dead. He has a massive spike in his chest. Not like that really matters. The logic I'm using here is that Whitebeard and Roger were comparable in their peak. And also peak Garp and peak Roger were comparable. And Whitebeard was able to sustain such a beating. Mind you, yes, he did die as a result of it. But that massive count that we get at the end of the Marineford of how many bullets, swords, cannonballs, Akainu punches that he took a shit ton of beating. And I don't think that the Titanic captains gave Garp anything close to that. Because mind you, yes, again, these guys are strong. But I don't think... I'm using the logic of if this was Whitebeard, would Whitebeard have gone down? And he would have died, yes, but it wouldn't have been as much as a push as Marineford was. Um, but I think Garp is actually gone. And another reason is that we have to think. His name is Monkey D. Garp. And the thing with the clan of D is that they seem to always die with a smile on their face. Roger, Ace, the list goes on of the Ds that we've seen. And it would just be fitting that with the lesson of this chapter being protect the youth because they're the future, it would make sense that, going back to the metaphor, that leaving the old man behind on the island full of beasts to save the kid would be the lesson. And what happens when on Hachinoso? The old man forces the other two to leave him on an island full of beasts to protect themselves. Like, Garp is goated. MVP of this chapter. MVP of so far this entire reading session. But yeah, I think Garp is actually done. I would be very happy to be proven wrong, but I am going to use the logic that he is gone now. Same thing with, like, Kid. Is Kid dead or is he still alive? You could make a case he's dead. You could make a case he's alive. At this point with Kid, I could go either way with him. But Garp, I think this would be a nice bookend. But then again, when he's laughing on the ground, he looks like he has a lot of energy. It's not like a dry chuckle. Like, he's crying until he's laughing until he cries. That's how much he is. So maybe he's not. Maybe he's going to be held prisoner. Maybe he's going to be a replacement for Kobe in the Blackbeard workforce. But this is a good chapter. Excited to see, because I'm assuming since we're getting the dialogue of we're going back to the Island of the Future. Yeah, the little teaser text says our tale shifts back to the Island of the Future. So we're going to be going back to Egghead here soon. We have 2 more chapters to go. And can't wait, actually. This is getting good. So, yeah, 1089. Okay, so chapter 1089 does something really cool. What it does is it resets it. And I'll get to that in a second. But we start off the chapter by finding out that, yeah, the word of Garp's disappearance, I'll say, has circulated the globe. And the people back in, from where Luffy set sail, I forget the name of it right now. Is that Dawn Island? I think that might be. Point is, they've heard about it, and the mayor is pretty much comforting them, like, Garp is strong. He will not die like that. Secondly, because I have several things to note before we actually get into the meat of the chapter. The entire ocean has now risen. No earthquake in recorded history matched the one felt that day. It caused untold destruction across the entire world. No one could determine the epicenter, so the significance of the geological event, unbeknownst to the people. Lelucia was destroyed 6 days prior, and the ocean tide raised about a meter all over the world. And there's several things to note here. 1, it happened 6 days ago, meaning the earthquake is being felt 6 days after the fact. That's how big this thing is. 2, or that's what I'm assuming, is that the earthquake is being felt 6 days after the fact. Number 2, there's a massive hole in the ocean. And frankly, I don't understand how the tide rises when there's a massive hole. But whatever. It reminds me of the hole that Enies Lobby is built in, or on top of. And I cannot be the only person that sees that. So I'm wondering if the Mother Flame has been used prior, but that would mean that it might not actually be a Vegapunk invention, because Enies Lobby has been there. It's not Enies Lobby. Yeah. No. Yeah, Enies Lobby. I'm stupid. Enies Lobby has been around for a little bit, so there's no... I mean, Vegapunk is also old. I don't think the Mother Flame was the thing that nuked Enies Lobby. It must have... If the Mother Flame is a Vegapunk invention, it is not the same thing that made the hole on Enies Lobby. If it is, then that means it can't be a Vegapunk weapon. Because if I remember correctly, Enies Lobby also operated very similarly, where there's this massive hole, a little bit of water's falling in, but it's not like everything's rushing to the hole, and you can't really get a ship near the hole, because that's what the gates were for. But like all over the world, uh, tides are rising by about a meter. And then we get to the point that I think is done expertly. We've been away from Egghead for a while now. So it's nice that they actually give us a play-by-play of what's happening. Egghead's being assaulted by enough firepower to put the Buster Call to shame, with 20 great warships, 30,000 Marines, 9 Vice Admirals, and an Admiral, and then unbeknownst to everyone else, one of the Elders is also on one of the ships. We get more characterization for Kizaru, but that's kind of just irrelevant right now. I'm pretty sure we're going to get way more next chapter, because it is literally just named Kizaru. Kizaru just tries to convince Sentomaru just to give up, because everything that they break on both sides is just a loss for everyone. And we get to understand that Sentomaru and Kuzan are on very similar, like, they're not strangers. Sentomaru calls Kizaru Unk. And we find out that, I mean, we all kind of knew, the lasers from the pacifistas are based off of Kuzan's. So that, again, sells how close Vegapunk must have been with Kuzan. And then we find out that the Elders on the ship, and this is where we get a play-by-play of everything that has happened. We can safely assume that Dr. Vegapunk and his 6 satellites are up in the Labostratum, along with the 4 Seraphim assigned to protect them. It also seems likely they have joined forces with Emperor Straw Hat. His crew has 10 members. Our advanced guard included 3 members of CP0, Rob Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy. There are also a number of other Cyberpol agents, but they seem to have been captured in the Fabrio Stanum by Sentomaru and his battalion of Mark III Pacifista. As the Frontier Dome is currently at 100%, we can be certain that nobody can get in or out of the Labstratium. Unfortunately, we have no way of knowing what has transpired in the interior of the dome in the last day or so. And fucking Jupiter is this guy's name. That's his title. Tells them to nuke the ship of evacuating researchers and workers. Very normal thing. We also find out that Bonnie is just not on their radar. Like, they just don't give a shit about her. And this is when we get into the next part. York radios in to the Elders and tells them pretty much everything. Tells them that if she had any interest in the Void Century, then she wouldn't blabber about it. It doesn't really matter to her. The fact that she survived over the night shouldn't be a surprise because she has the Seraphim under her control. And that she can technically reproduce the mother flame, but she needs the laboratory and the power station to do it. And there's one other thing. The Straw Hats have her hostage. And the line that I saw everyone laughing about when it came out was Luffy saying, "I don't really get it, but we can just use her as a human shield to get away," right? Because, of course, that is exactly what Luffy would say. And we see that everyone is here. This is our group. We have the Straw Hat Pirates, CP0, and I believe the Seraphim are also under control at this point. I think so. And then Sentomaru has the Pacifistas down there. We also have the armored Sea Kings. This is a big thing, but again, this is to put a Buster Call to shame. So it'll be interesting to see the military might that gets busted out here soon. Good. It's a nice bring back to basics for Egghead. And other than that, this chapter, it was good, but it was more so just getting us reassigned to Egghead. So, 1090 will be the next chapter. I'm pretty sure that is the chapter we have to catch up with. So, yeah. Talk to you guys in a bit. Last but not least, I present to you chapter 1090 and my thoughts on that. So, we start off the chapter with the same transmission we ended the chapter on, where Luffy's taking control of it, and he tells them that he's going to be king of the pirates, classic Luffy. And he tells them that they have all the Vegapunks up here, and they're all hostages. And we go to Saturn, and he says there are 3 things that we must secure: York's safety, punk records, which we can access through her, in the power station that created the Mother Flame. 1, I'm wrong. It is a Vegapunk weapon. I am stupid. Or it's something that at least uses that power station. Or he means that the power station can replicate the Mother Flame. The whole Mother Flame thing is kind of throwing me for a loop. I don't understand it. Might just be because I haven't read for a bit. Don't know, though. And he just says, the rest of it can be sacrificed if need be. The human life on that island is worth nothing more than an insect. No matter how many you leave behind, they will always repopulate. Then we get to a really nice crew dynamic. York starts shit-talking, saying that if it wasn't thanks to, if they do anything to York, that the Marines will just blow the island off the face of the map, just like Ohara. And Nami fucking thwacks her, and Robin has this really pleased look on her face. And Chopper's been treating her wounds, and we get to see like the layout of the room. But we do find out that Pythagoras and Shaka are dead. Rips in chat. Edison is still kicking, though. He's pretty cool. But then we see that Lucci's whispering to himself something. And Kaku asks, what? And he just says, just talking to myself, whatever. Then we see that the Marines in the basement, again, this is me misunderstanding the situation. The Marines in the basement are there, but they are also being accompanied by the Seraphim that are wrapped in bubbles that can neutralize the abilities. So I thought the Seraphim were on our side. Then I remembered that York had control of them, so they kind of had a fight. I'm just a little goofy goober, though. That's on me. Then we get to cut to the fact, we're going to throw away some side notes about the Seraphim being weird, but the the Frontier Dome that they have to leave through can't be disabled without a passcode. That passcode, only York knows. York did not upload it to Punk Records, meaning we can't break the passcode, other than brute forcing it. Then we find out that Stussy has, like, nearly psychic powers, because she knows exactly how many ships are out there. I'd wager there's 100 ships of all sizes and approximately 30,000 Marines. Then we find out that one log post has adjusted. And we're going to Elbath, according to Vegapunk. So the point that we're going to use is we're going to use the big robot that lifted the Sunny up to the island. We're going to use that to shuttle off in the second that we're clear of the island. The robot's going to shut down, but after that we're going to use Kuda Burst to put a kilometer between us and where we are so that we're clear of the Marines for a little bit and we can just go. Then York wants to shit talk, saying that she won't tell her, like, this is all hinging on the fact that the Frontier Dome comes down. But as long as she keeps her mouth shut, Frontier Dome won't come down, Marines will attack, pirates lose. Then, we get some Marine perspective. After, of course, we get a nice little dialogue that Bonnie legitimately thinks Sanji is such a cool guy for being able to cook and fight. Then we go to the Marines. Lucci is indeed a rat, and he has told them literally everything that is going on the island, even though we were supposed to be joined at the hip. The Frontier Dome is a laser-based system, meaning, of course, our boy Borsalino can just right through, since he's made of light and all that. And Kizaru says that he will not fly over Sentomaru because that'd be spitting in his face, and that even if he did, Sentomaru will just have the weaponized Sea Kings attack the Marine ships, and that's kind of not cool. Then we get the cool thing. So we get to see all the Marines, everything that's being set up, right? Of course, He beams. He uses Yata no Kakugumi. Yata no Kagami. There it is. And he blasts past one of the weaponized Sea Kings, beams across the city, right to where Sentomaru is, and they have a clash. Sentomaru's words are, "You should know, my guard's the toughest in the world." And Luffy says someone really strong is coming. Mind you, this is the same guy who 1v1 Kaido, like, a month ago. I don't know if it's been a month in world, but he just 1v1 Kaido. And he's saying that Kuzan is, Kizaru. Look, man, 2K names throw me for a loop. Kizaru is strong. That is putting some real respect on that name. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Kizaru is, like, unfolding from here. Um. So, how did I like the chapter? I liked it. It was good. It's a good setup for what I'm going to assume is the Egghead incident coming up here soon. Like the actual raid onto Egghead. Because, like I said, we have our set goal. The Marines have their set goal. Kizar's on land. We're going to be getting a shit ton of hockey users from the Marines landing on the island. My question is, if we let the CP0 agents loose, are they going to be on our side or the Marines? Because, like, the Straw Hats saved them. So you would think there'd be a little bit of loyalty there, but, Marines are Marines. Good chapter. I'm recording this audio. I've just wrapped this up at 7:06 p.m. on the 27th, but there is still something I want to talk about. The live action is going to be an 8-episode adaptation of East Blue, and I'm going to be watching it. If I think that there's anything to really talk about in it, I mean, if it's a good adaptation, but nothing, like, amazing, I'll just mention it in the next chapter review after the episodes come out, because they come out in 5 days. So it'll probably be next week, because this week was a break. I believe this week was a break. I'm reading last week's chapter. Again, I think. So I'll talk about that after I watch them. It might not be on release because, work. But yeah, I'm going to watch the live action. I'll share my thoughts, opinions, all that. From what I've seen of, like, the trailers and the behind the scenes and all that, the crew seems to love what they were doing. Each of the characters was perfectly cast. Emily Rudd has a special place in my heart for Nami. She is fucking amazing. Taz Skylar has put in tantamount to impossible levels of effort to be Sanji and practice the kicking and stuff. Makanyu, the actor for Zoro, has experience with katanas and swords fighting before. Inaki, the actor for Luffy, just seems to nail the energy. Inaki has been officially recognized by Oda and the voice actress for Luffy in the Japanese. So, like, all he needs is Colleen Killenberg, the English voice actor, to give him recognition, and boom, he is Luffy. I am going to be watching the show in English and Japanese, so I don't know which one I'm going to watch first. Because they're getting the original, they're getting the anime crew to to do the dubbing for the live action Japanese. So I'm probably going to be watching with Japanese audio with English subtitles, just adding another step of complexity. It'll be interesting, though. Some costume designs have been hit or miss, in my opinion. Arlong is too small in frame, but that's just because he's a dude. Like, you have to get an actual actor to play him. So maybe in action he won't be that bad. The trailer didn't do him a lot of justice. The Buggy actor is putting his whole Clanussi into this role, and I cannot wait to see it. Basically, what I'm saying is this is shaping up to be a really good show, and I cannot wait to see it. And you're going to be hearing about it all the way next time I upload a One Piece video. Hopefully it's going to be soon. Hopefully I don't do this whole fucking 2-month prolonged period thing. But yeah, after I wrap up recording, I'm going to clean out my pet rat's cage, probably go down, put my blankets in the laundry, and then I'm going to come up and edit this video, throw some pictures onto it. Nothing too complex. And yeah. So until next time, stay safe, have fun, and read more manga. Okay, guys. Bye.